Carrie, thank you so much for being with me on the show today.
Thank you, Chasmith. I'm really excited to chat today.
All the tech stuff, all the tech stuff. Okay. So, yeah, I'm very excited. I've been following you for quite some time now. I've been watching one of your videos online. I'm learning a ton, and I think this is going to be really great information for the people who do listen primarily to my podcast, who many people are suffering from chronic illness or chronic pain. And I know that you have your own story of healing and how you kind of fell into quantum biology and how it supported you. So could we start with you sharing a little bit about that story?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 20 years ago, as I kind of got on my own healing journey, I had no clue what quantum biology was. So it's kind of crazy to be here today, but I'm excited to share this information. I'm so passionate about teaching it. So what happened first and foremost was, I was a college athlete, right? And so I I hate the should word, should have been at the pinnacle of health. And I wasn't, right? I had chronic joint, they were called subluxations, where you basically dislocate a joint and pop it back into place. I had bad sleep, insomnia, but I pushed through, right? Had a life to live. I just had to try to push through as much as I can. But at that point, when I was in undergrad and playing as an athlete, I was also really studying more of a traditional medical model of how the human body operated. I was doing mostly a pre-med undergrad. And there was something in me that just knew that I wasn't meant, I wasn't meant to go to med school. I wasn't meant to go to get a PhD. Like I had a couple of those options available to me. And so I just kind of continued on. I trusted the process, I guess, in terms of what I would ultimately do for a living. And it took me to massage therapy school at the time, which was a completely different way of viewing the body than I had been taught, mostly from like a strict biochemical or molecular perspective in undergrad, to more of a energetic approach to the body, which was cool, right? It was like, wow, these are both very interesting and I'm certain very valid ways of looking at the body. And in the meantime, I became a personal trainer and opened my own clinic. And I really wanted to help people support their bodies as best as they can with the tools that I had in my toolbox. And as I got into it, I got more and more complex cases coming to me. So people weren't just coming to me saying, hey, give me a good workout or give me a good massage. It was an autoimmune condition or chronic Lyme or chronic migraines or, things that are very much part of what people are experiencing on a regular basis these days. And, my tools only took me so far with them on their healing journey and supporting them. And it wasn't until then I had my own healing challenge or my own health challenge that I really had to just dive headfirst into this. And so fast forward until I had my first son, which was about 12 years ago now. And I experienced the worst fatigue of my life, the adrenal fatigue where your cortisol is flatlined all day. I could fall asleep at any given moment. I felt like I was living in a dark movie theater and it was like I had to struggle, and a very boring movie, right? And I had to struggle to keep my eyes open. My digestion was leaky gut to the max. I doubled over in pain for 4 hours after eating an avocado. And I was like, what is going on with my body? Like, why? And so that's when I, said, okay, I need more tools in my toolbox. Clearly, I don't have what it takes for my body right now, the information and the message that my body needs to heal. So I got a master's degree in clinical nutrition and did all the nutrition, right? And that was cool. So much that I learned. I did the elimination diet, which I did. I found out I was sensitive to gluten. I did the supporting the digestive enzymes, the whole 5R gut healing protocol. And I felt functioning, like I could function. My sleep was still garbage. My energy was okay. My cognition was okay. It was better. It wasn't that severe brain fog like I had been experiencing, but I wasn't satisfied with what I was hearing. Oh, Carrie, you're a mom. Like you're in your 30s, you're a mom. This is what you're supposed to feel like. I was just like, that's BS. Like, I don't buy that. There's something I'm missing. And so, I just so happened to stumble upon the work of Dr. Jack Kruse one night when I was having insomnia, trying to figure out why I wasn't sleeping. And so I found a blog of his. And for those of you who don't know Jack Kruse, he is a neurosurgeon who really started me down the rabbit hole of how the body needs a circadian rhythm and light and operates at this quantum level, which he talks about a ton. And so I started applying a couple of the things that he discussed around, especially light and my light environment. And within 3 days, I felt a shift, a major shift, like more energy and clarity of thought and a better sleep than I'd had in a decade. And so I was like, wait a second, there's something to this. There's got to be something to this. This isn't just a fluke. I've tried everything. And so I went down the whole quantum biology rabbit hole, and here I am today. It's the foundation of my health. I've completely reversed everything. My body is healed completely from everything, every challenge that I was dealing with. And now I lay this as the foundation for all of my clients as well, because I feel like this is a missing piece for a lot of people in their healing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know we talked earlier about it too. And for you, you do attribute the light and all the elements, all the other elements of quantum biology to your healing, but there's also an element of the mind and emotional aspect too that plays a role too.
100% there is. And so I actually consider that part of what I would call applied quantum biology. It's this idea that our mindset really can help create our reality, right? It's a very Joe Dispenza-y thing to say, but like, I really believe that that's the case. So mindset is something I coach with all of my clients. I've also, and I feel like the missing piece that a lot of people are addressing nowadays as well is emotional trauma, whether it's trauma in childhood, whether it's just a current trauma, whether it's a physical trauma. Trauma is one that I think works very well. It's when people go through like maybe a somatic retraining or a nervous system reprogramming, those sorts of things pair so well with this quantum healing stuff that I'm going to be talking about today, the light hygiene, the mitochondrial health, the grounding. So yeah, that's a major component as well. And one of the very first things I had to start doing was I had to stop identifying as I have adrenal fatigue. I have adrenal fatigue. I have leaky gut, right? Because that right there created a barrier. It was like, oh, wait, no, I am a thriving version of myself. And so I have all of my clients do a mindset exercise where they legitimately, in present tense, they write down who is the thriving version of you, right? I wake up with energy. I have the focus and creativity to do whatever my day demands. I can walk three miles, without feeling fatigued. Like I just have clients really be very specific, because now I want them identifying with that version of themselves, because that version is there. It exists. It's just, we have to then guide our energy towards that.
Right. Yeah, I love that so much. And that's something that I've definitely learned. And then something else I've recently learned, because you don't want to associate or identify with being the symptom or the dis-ease or the diagnosis. And it's interesting too, because so many people, have you ever noticed how many people have their Instagram accounts named after their disease or diagnosis?
Yeah.
And I wonder how healing is possible when your entire identity is wrapped up in that. But
I think it's hard. I think it's hard. One of the courses I teach is in helping people with fertility issues. And a lot of it is, I'm an infertility warrior, right? It's like there is an identity, and it's like, I'm so glad you have found support thus far on your journey, but we got to move beyond that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I love how you're able to tie that all in together. So something that I'm really fascinated by is light. And so I want to start with light, because it's interesting. The more I've been studying this through you, and there's a few other people who really go in depth about this online, we tend to think that light is, it's interesting. We tend to be, everybody can agree like, oh, vitamin D can come from the sun, though many people are so afraid of the sun that they choose to just supplement it, thinking it's going to be just as high of a quality of nutrients. And so we often think that's what encompasses light. Oh, I need to get vitamin D, sunshine, that's it. But we don't think about the wide spectrum of nutrients beyond vitamin D that come from the sun, and how that different times of the day and different levels of sunshine impact us differently. And the other thing that's been really intriguing for me that I've recently learned through studying all of your work is that it's so much more than our interaction with the sun. It's our interaction with all spectrums of light that are coming into us through our eyes and skin at all times of day and night. So it's not about just what we want to expose ourselves to, but what we want to also minimize exposure to in what capacities. So I would love if we could start on sunlight and maybe break down why sunlight's so important, how it helps us, the difference between morning versus evening versus midday, high noon sun, and all the benefits.
I just want to say thank you for that beautiful lead into that. That was gorgeous. That was so cool how you set that all up. It's so true. That's such a nice little summary that you laid out right there. So thank you for that. It's a really great way to get into this and to learn about light and understand light from a different perspective, because my perspective was that it's like vitamin D, right? That's the only thing sunlight is good for is vitamin D. And so if I take it in a pill and my blood levels are 50, right, then I'm fine, right? I'm great. I don't have to worry about anything else around sunlight. And while it is true that our blood levels of vitamin D can be impactful or can tell us something about what's happening in our bodies from inflammatory levels and things like that, or sunlight is so much more than just vitamin D. And so when sunlight makes vitamin D in us, it makes so much more than just one form of it too, which is something we could talk about as well. But what we have to recognize is that the human body, every living creature, anything that is living on this planet has a circadian rhythm, which basically means that it recognizes that there's a period every 24 hours of daylight and a period within those 24 hours of darkness. And that is how the world has existed since it existed, right? We've had day and dark, light and dark, light and dark. And it made sense then that living creatures would say, well, I don't think I need to have my digestion optimized at 3 a.m. if I'm not anticipating any food. Like, it'd be really silly for Carrie to try to hunt a bear right at 3 a.m. So let me shut down certain things or optimize the timing in my body of certain tasks according to the time of day that I think it would be most beneficial, which basically allowed us to become complex and conserve a lot of energy and allow us to then have the energy to move and live a nomadic lifestyle and go from place to place. And so it made sense to me then when I recognized that the light, my eyes were trying to pick up certain light signals to know what time of day it was. I asked myself, okay, well, what exactly is it in the light that my body is cueing in on? What exactly is it? And it turns out that from before sunrise, when the sun just starts to lighten the sky, until solar noon, when the sun's at the high point of the sky, till after sunset, when we start to get more towards darkness, that there's one frequency of light, one color, if you will, that we would see broken up in a rainbow or in a prism, one color of light that varies predictably from being non-existent before sunrise to layering on its amount and intensity until solar noon, and then going away until there's no more of it after sunset. And that's the color blue. It's the blue, right? Blue light. So that's basically the amount of blue light I let into my eyes is what tells time in my body. So I could go out right now and I could sync up with naked eyes outside, and my brain would say 1:01 p.m., right? It would know exactly the time of day and therefore exactly what tasks need to be optimized. When I was living when I didn't know about light, I was living under any light at any time, right? I could turn on, if I woke up at 4 a.m. or if I was up at 2 a.m. because I couldn't sleep, I could flip on a TV, right? Which has LED lights coming at me. I could flip on an overhead light. And so I could give myself any type of light I wanted at any time of the day. Once I realized that it was this very predictable layering on of blue light and then taking away of blue light or waning of blue light that was happening that my brain was cueing into to tell time, it made perfect sense why my circadian rhythm was disrupted. I was flipping on these LED lights or staring at a cell phone screen that had this massive amount of blue light that was never changing, right? Light, the amount and intensity that comes from a light bulb or a screen, that blue light never changes. And I wasn't getting outside. So I was basically living my life using screens and bulbs to try to tell the time. And it was a very confusing signal. It's like living what I call like in zombie world, right? Like you're in this almost like, what time of day is it? Is it morning? Is it night? Is it the middle of the afternoon? My brain did not know the time of day. And so when I started syncing up with key light signals, and there's key times of the day that I like my clients to get outside and get the natural light into naked eyes, that's when the change really started happening for me. It was this idea of, oh my gosh, I've been giving my brain the wrong light cueing, the wrong light signals And so I stopped doing that. I blocked it, turned those lights off, minimized that as best as I could. And I started syncing up with the light that was available to me from my natural environment. And my brain was just like, oh yeah, this is the time of day. This is what we have to do. This is when you need to make cortisol. This is when your thyroid hormone needs to be higher. This is when your body temperature should be lower. This is, it just, everything just started to fall back into place. My body was just missing a couple of cues, a little bit of information that it needed. And then it remembered what it was supposed to do.
I love this. I have so many follow-up questions I want to ask you, like little questions. So I'm in my brain trying to like hone down on like one. So light. Can we talk about the difference and benefits of like sunrise, early morning light, and what that time frame is for somebody who's listening who says, I hear what you're saying, I want to be better, but there's just no way I can get outside and watch the sunrise. Like, that's okay. What can we do, and how can we still maximize that morning light in what time frame? And then also let's break down the benefits of sunset and that kind of time frame.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually going to start with sunset, because any of us who've been on this chronic health journey, like this healing journey, we understand that potentially I understand it's potentially easier to get out at sunset than it is to wake up and get morning light, right? Some days it was just like, if I can sleep in until 11, are you kidding? Like, no brainer, right? My body's just going to sleep. So I want to tell people that just first thing when you wake up, go outside. You have to just sync your eyes up with the time of day. Your brain just needs that hit of information. So if it's 6 a.m. at sunrise, or if it's 9:30 a.m., because that's when you woke up, go outside. And the thing that's cool about the influencing the body from this quantum level, at that quantum scale of subatomic particles, is that you just need a consistent stimulus. It's not about doing more is better. It's just about syncing up with the right signals to give the body the information that it needs to then go ahead and run all of its tasks in the way that we were designed to run. So I say, first, whenever you wake up, go outside, get the signaling. That's automatically going to put your body and your brain into the correct time of day. But then conversely, at sunset is when, if I were to I got this little meter, right, that I could take outside to show me the colors of light and the ratios of them that are coming from the sun. If I take my meter out after sunset, I'm not going to get blue, right? The blue is going to be gone, or it's not going to be of a high enough intensity that it's going to signal anything to my brain anymore about time. So for all intents and purposes, after sunset, the day is over, right? The day is over, and I'm preparing for this period of darkness to come. What I was doing was completely ignoring that, right? I was then flipping on all lights in my house, staring at my phone screen, staring at a TV screen until late into the night. At the time, my husband worked second shift. So, I wanted him to come home, and we wanted to hang out and maybe watch a movie together. And so I was completely ignoring the fact that blue light should be or would be gone if I was living outside, like in a camping lifestyle. And so what I started to do was say, oh, okay, well, what can I do to block the artificial blue light or minimize that artificial blue light from entering my eyes and confusing my brain? Because my brain was whenever I would do that, Chaz, whenever I would start to feel really tired at just around sunset, and then I would get my second wind, right? It's like, oh, but I'm physically exhausted, but I'm mentally wired. And what I was doing is I was basically telling my brain, oh, the day has started again, right? No, the day was ending because we kind of know that the blue light was going away, but hello, cell phone screen. And then I would just rev up my cortisol again and just kind of really get into this really wired state. And so I started using orange toned blue blockers, right? So I started wearing these really goofy looking orange toned blue blockers, because what these do is they block a lot of the artificial blue light coming from screens and bulbs. So, and I started turning more lights off, right? Or using maybe dimmer lights, like dimmer wattage light bulbs, and using my orange tone blue blockers. And I found that I would get tired at what I would consider for myself a really appropriate bedtime. And I would actually be able to fall asleep and maintain my sleep throughout the night, because as soon as the blue light is gone, my melatonin skyrockets. if there's blue light coming into my eyes, my melatonin gets suppressed. And so I was able then to reestablish healthy melatonin production so that I could get into sleep and stay asleep and get all the healing that happens when we sleep. And I just repeated that consistently. Go outside when I could in the morning, check in with the natural light throughout the day, block that artificial light from entering my eyes after sunset or nightfall around, which is probably about an hour after sunset. And that's what it took to really get my body rolling in the right direction with light.
Mm-hmm. Now, what about skin? Because there's a lot of people that study sun and, all light in general, and while the first light that goes into your eyes is connected, we know the eyes are an extension of the brain, and then there sends a message, and that we also know the light that goes in the eyes impacts whether or not our body builds melanin and helps us prevent sunburns. But I've heard also that even blue light, like going into the skin, still in some level impacts you. And I know for me, and you said, hey, let's minimize how much goes into us. And we can't, it's about not being perfect. But if I put the blue blockers on my eyes, that's exponentially better than nothing. But do you ever consider the skin as well?
I do, because we do. So we have these little sensors for blue light, right? Called melanopsin receptors. We have the most concentrated version of them, or amount of them, is in our eyes. Mm-hmm. And then we do have some on our skin as well. Just speaking from a clinical perspective, I would say I've only had maybe a handful of clients over the course of the past 10 years who also had to be aware of the light on their skin too.
Okay.
So the majority of people, once they were really aware about the light entering their eyes, that was what it took for their brain to start to say, oh, pineal gland, make that melatonin. Okay, we can start to prepare for the regeneration that happens when we sleep.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And so what did I just want to ask you about that? We also you talked about light bulbs. Mm-hmm. And sometimes simple hacks like switching out light bulbs, right? I think, what are those old light bulbs that we suddenly replace them all with LEDs because they last longer, but there used to be the
incandescent bulbs. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We can still buy those, right?
Well, a lot of places are banning them.
Oh, bummer.
But what I think they're always going to allow is what are called decorative bulbs. So I encourage my clients to get these little amber decorative, they're called Edison style incandescents, because they make Edison style LEDs too, Edison style incandescent bulbs. Mm-hmm. And then just use these in like table lamps, right, throughout the house. Because these are just like that warm, soft glow, right? That nice warm, almost like a campfire-y glow. Nothing that's too harsh or intense. Like I find those bright LEDs to be very intense at night.
Yeah, I don't like it.
No.
I feel like I'm in a hospital room or something.
Listen, so it was mother-son night for my oldest kid's for his school. And we went to a hockey game. And I was like, can I wear my orange tone blue blockers, please? He was just like, please, mom. Says, okay, I won't. But the lights there were offensive. I was getting like this visceral, like, oh my gosh, it's 9:00 at night and these things are just blaring into my brain. It's like, okay, I can recover from this, no problem, right? I know this was a good experience with my child. I'm glad we did it. It was beautiful. But day in and day out, that would be a massive stressor for me that I don't know if my body would do well with it.
Yeah. Did you wear your yellows at least?
Oh yeah, they've got no problems if I wear yellows. And like when we've got like late night, 8:00, 9:00 at night, whether it's a gymnastics practice or a basketball practice, I wear my yellows and I have a baseball cap. So I'm just kind of like this, it does the trick. I do the best I can.
Yeah. And I think that's important to mention. I know we talked about this offline, is we're not talking about all this to create a fear inside, it's not about being afraid of stuff, because yes, our body does, the more resilience we build, the more our body has the capacity to recover. Just like learning, hey, I might want to get 8 to 9 hours of sleep every night. And if one night life happens and I only get 6 hours, that's okay. I can still function, like teaching yourself that belief that I can get less than sometimes and I'm still going to be okay. And I can go out And, we live in a modern world. We're interacting in a world that is filled with blue light and technologies and stuff. And it's being able to trust that you can still have those experiences and not live this, you don't want to live a small life. So it's making actionable steps where you can, and then knowing that there's always room for other things to happen.
Absolutely. You said that so well. Absolutely. What was really cool is I got to the point where that perfectionist mindset for me was toxic. And that in and of itself was definitely not supportive of my body and my healing. And so it was cool to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I am going to go with friends for dinner and I'm going to do what I can. And even if I don't have these glasses on, can I recover? 100% I can. And so now it's like, I control what I can. So my house, I'm diligent. My whole family, we really like putting these dim lights on at night. It feels good to us so that we control what we can. My whole family actually just started wearing orange blue blockers. They used to not be their thing, right? Like my husband wouldn't, my oldest, my kids would be like, okay, mom's got her glasses on, but now they're asking for it. And so it's been cool, right? It's been an evolution, and they're realizing they feel better when they wear them. They feel better when the house is dim. So we really worked on it in little tiny layers. So I always tell my clients, it's the 2% changes that add up, right? It's not about like this completely revamp our lifestyle right now with these 100 things, because that's just so daunting. But if I look back on all the 2% changes I've made a ton of 2% changes, but it was so doable because it was layered on in these little steps.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think, how important do you think noon light is? The high noon light and getting more skin exposed to the midday sunshine that so many people in this culture have become unbearably afraid of?
Yeah, I think it's important, right? When you have to think about this, when the sun's at its high point in the sky, you've got all of the colors and all of the intensity, which means that even just a small exposure on my skin, say 10 minutes on my skin, can create massive amounts of vitamin D. And so it's important for people to note that wavelength of light that makes vitamin D, when it strikes my skin, I don't just make one version of vitamin D. I actually make dozens of metabolites and versions of vitamin D that my body uses, all of them, right? And it's just because we've studied this one type of vitamin D that we can measure in blood really easily, and we've really become myopic about that and saying, oh yeah, that's all that we need. It's very short-sighted when the fact that we know that sunlight striking the skin makes all of these forms of vitamin D. So I really highly encourage people to get that sun exposure. Don't lay out naked for 4 hours, please. You don't have to do that. But like, if we can start to layer on regular small skin exposures and naked eyes as well, we're able to get the full benefit. And so when that noontime sunlight strikes my skin, I get all that vitamin D, but I also, there's UVA light as well in that light, which means that when that strikes my skin, it dilates my blood vessels. And so it improves my blood flow. And the way that my blood can flow, that impacts how well I'm distributing oxygen to my cells, how well I'm distributing nutrients to my cells, how well I'm clearing them the waste away from my cells. So, I've got clients who they believe it now, but it was like, I've got high blood pressure in the winter, but not in the summer when I'm golfing. It must be just because I love golf. It's like, no, it's because you're outside and you're getting that sunlight on your skin and it's dilating your blood vessels, and now your blood can flow easier. So sunlight is powerful, right? The body uses it in different ways. So that midday sunlight, I tell people, it's still very important to get, but you can get a shorter exposure. If you're not comfortable yet with using sunlight, get a short exposure and you're still going to get a benefit.
Yeah. Something I've learned is just building it slowly. Start with, somebody with certain skin types that burn really easy. They might have to start with 1 minute or 2 minutes. And every week, you build that up to 3 to 5 to 10 to 15, very slowly. I do wonder though, I know there's demographics of people that have certain challenges, and I wonder if you have any insights or tips for this, like somebody who has a light sensitivity, who often can't go outside without actually sun blockers, like sun glasses on. How can we begin to still experience the benefits of natural light when we have this sensitivity, and how can we begin to desensitize that that experience the brain is having so that it can actually have a positive you know, experience of light once again, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, it does. Absolutely. And so my clients with that, I've had a couple of clients who instantly, when going outside in that midday sunlight, would get migraines.
Yes.
And so it's definitely a thing. So with these clients, I started them out and said, okay, can you get more time at sunset, right? Where it's very soothing light, but you're getting it with naked eyes as much as possible. And we started with some of them, we started with 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes, and we would do that at a time, right? Okay, take your sunglasses off for a couple of minutes, even 30 seconds, get the signal, and then put them back on. And it was just syncing up regularly with that signal. And with some clients, it was, we had to have them have a hat on when they took their sunglasses off, because with that hat on, it would block some of the intensity, but still we could allow the light to enter the eyes. And so they would still be outside even with the hat on. And it was starting when the sun was really much dimmer and more soothing. And then slowly, like you said, slowly building it up. It's a process. And what really, I think, helped me hone in on this with clients is heliotherapy or sun therapy. It's been around for forever, right? But there were clinics over in Europe from about 200 years ago. And they would legitimately, what they would do in these clinics would be up in more of a high mountain region. And they would wheel patients out during the intense light and just expose their feet for a minute on day one, and then roll them back in. And then their feet for a minute, and then their ankles for a minute on day 2, and roll them back in. And it was just layered on gradually like that. And you would see these beautiful healing, you would hear about these beautiful healing anecdotal stories of tuberculosis and all of these other infections and chronic inflammatory conditions being healed by simply layering on the sunlight consistently, slowly and consistently. The other clientele that needs slow and consistent is histamine. I do have clients who go out into the sun, right? It's like it burns, it's painful. So again, starting with the very soothing early morning light. But I have had clients completely reverse histamine issues using sunlight in a very slow and controlled way.
Yeah, that's good. I'm so glad you addressed that, because that's the other thing, is people who almost have developed an allergy essentially to the sun, which is so disheartening, right? To develop an allergy to something that's so incredibly powerfully healing. So it's a process of retraining the brain for sure. Something that really worked for me, because I used to be that person who would go out in the sun and immediately get a migraine, it's called sunning. And it's where you close your eyes. So you're out in the sun, but again, it's a slow, you don't just go out in high noon and do this. You start in morning sunshine where it's more gentle, and you close your eyes and you turn your head side to side so that you're letting different spectrums. So you're having a moment where it's dark and then sun comes into it and then it's dark. And I did that over and over for months and months and months, and slowly started realizing that, oh my God, I can actually do this now. And I'm at the point where I can pretty much most days go outside at any point in the day. Now, sometimes it's weird. There's some days I'm a little bit for whatever reason I haven't figured out yet, I still might have a little heightened sensitivities creep in. And on those days, I just need to put a ball cap on, because it's mostly when the sun's right above me coming down this way that it could potentially aggravate me or my system or cause a headache. But aside from that, which is far and few between, I'm pretty much at a place now where I can go out there and enjoy it at any point except for when it's right over me.
Good for you. That's so cool. And it is, right? It's just a process. But
Yeah.
the cool part about it is it's not like you had to work through that process to then now you could reap the benefits of light. You were getting benefits all along. Right? Even when your eyes were closed and you were out there doing that, you were getting benefits using light to heal your body. And so that's what's cool about this kind of this process of adding more natural light to your life. It's not like you have to, now that you can stand 2 hours of direct sunlight, now you can heal. It's like, no, your body is getting the information and energy it needs all along. So it's really nice.
That makes sense.
Right? I'm not wasting my time trying to get to this certain point. It's just like, no, I'm letting my body receive what it can, and it's getting a benefit, even if it's 1 minute first thing in the morning.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. So the last demographic is people who live in climates that tend to be a lot more dark and gloomy and cloud-filled skies, and they don't see the sun. Are we still getting the benefits from being outside even on those days, or is this where we need to bring in supplemental lighting?
We're still getting the benefit, right? And so what we have to recognize is that the only time that there is no sunlight available to me is truly in darkness. So that's when the sun has set. It can be cloudy, foggy, rainy, snowy, and the sunlight, all the colors that we talked about are still coming through the clouds to me. And so that was a huge thing, because I did have massive seasonal affective disorder. I live in Michigan, and like clockwork, right? Come December, end of November, December, it would come on hard. And I used to have a bright light box on my desk. But when I started doing my circadian practices, I call them, I no longer needed that light box, because going outside, I was getting all of the signals and more than that light box could provide. And so, I think seasonal affective disorder can be really supported, even like in these, I know it's dark, it's cold, it's cloudy, but I feel so much better in the winter now that I go outside on a regular basis than I ever have before. And when I would just kind of hole up and pretend like winter didn't exist.
Yeah. Do you think there is ever a benefit to supplementing with like an infrared lighting system of a high quality?
I feel like the red light therapy panels can be very beneficial, because they support a lot of different energy promoting pathways in the body. So I think those can be beneficial. I do have some clients in Northern Canada who also they use tanning, right? They use like a spurty lamp or a tanning bed throughout the winter. Clients in Northern Minnesota, same thing. And it's a case-by-case basis. They feel so good when they do that. And so it's a beautiful combination of understanding the benefit of getting light from its natural sources whenever possible, but also that they know their bodies well enough and trust their bodies well enough to know that when they do get that artificial exposure, it actually is benefiting them tremendously.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this is good. I love light. I know we could talk about light probably. We could probably pick any topic and talk about it all for an hour, but I want to move into grounding, because that's another one that's really dear to my heart. And it's another thing that's free. It's free and easy to do. Although, just like with sun, there's some stipulations, like how do I get my grounding when it's snowing outside, So can you share some of the benefits of grounding and simple ways that people can begin to incorporate grounding into their life to reap these benefits?
Absolutely. And I think to set the stage with this, I want to kind of compare what grounding does to kind of how people talk about getting antioxidants, because I think that word we hear a lot more commonly. It's like a lot of us on these journeys are experiencing chronic inflammation. We hear inflammation. And so, okay, if something is inflammatory, I have to maybe do something to calm the inflammation. And so oftentimes you'll hear, oh, this antioxidant drink or this antioxidant supplement will calm the inflammation. But what inflammation is really just unpaired electrons looking for a friend. So in our bodies, electrons always want to exist in pairs. They want to exist together. And when they do, they're happy and they're able to donate energy and just be this beautiful source of electricity in our bodies. When they're unpaired, they're reactive, it's called, meaning they're looking for that pair. So they're going to try to bump into the cell membrane to get a pair and start an inflammatory cascade. They're going to bump into a mitochondria and try to get a pair and cause inflammation. And so if inflammation is simply a bunch of unpaired electrons, why don't we flood our body full of electrons that then can join with these unpaired ones, and they can be calm and friendly again, and they can serve as an energy source in the body. And so what earthing does is the surface of the earth actually contains free electrons. So instantaneously, when I touch any bare skin to any earth surface, not asphalt, but any other earth surface, I will be pulling those electrons into my body, and I can funnel them wherever they're needed. So wherever there's that chronic inflammation going on, I can send those electrons to create these electron pairs and calm the inflammation. And so you can see this really cool in these before and after thermographic scans where they look at like heat signatures in the body. And I've seen clients who have had like chronic arthritis in the knees or a chronic shoulder injury where there's this continuous hot spot. And, before earthing, it's really red and orange and really bright, really pink. So that means a lot of inflammation. And after earthing, it's like blue. It's like green. The inflammation is completely calmed. And that happens within about 40 minutes. So it's so cool to show clients these before and afters because they're like, wait a second. I thought I had to, take a bunch of aspirin or I had to do, they were taught other ways to take care of the inflammation. They didn't realize they could just touch the bare earth and they could have, I would say, an even more beneficial effect in terms of calming the inflammation by flooding the body full of those electrons. The other thing that comes with it that I think is really, really important for those of us who are potentially looking to support our body through this journey is that touching the earth balances our nervous system. There's something about that instantaneous electron flow that actually we show that, if we're up in fight or flight, we actually bring it back into balance with the rest and digest nervous system. Or some clients are just so rest and digest because they don't have the get up and go of the fight or flight. I was there, that it actually helps to bring the fight or flight up, which is good. We want these to be in balance back and forth. And within 2 seconds, that happens with earthing. So we get not only the electron flow, but we get also then that balancing of the nervous system, which I think is really fundamental for our health as well.
Wow. So how do we do this? And do we get it just from walking? Do we actually want to sit or lie down or hold still? How do we do it in the winter months when it's cold and we can't be barefoot?
Great questions. So I say whatever's easiest. We don't have to be full body on the ground. Any bare skin touching the earth will do it. And that's not just including the earth on the ground. Like I could, if there's trees or bushes in my backyard, I could hold on to a branch and I could actually be getting electrons that way because they're pulling up Earth's electrons as well. And I am then going to grab them and now I am. And so you can touch a tree, touch a branch, touch a bush, put bare feet to the grass, to the sand, in water. You can touch bare skin to snow even. I'll do it. I do it throughout the winter because I love it, but took me a long time to get there. And so in the winter, there's a couple of other things we can do. In the winter, there are indoor earthing technologies that are okay, right? I do prefer outside if at all possible. And so things like I've had clients who get what are called conductive gloves. So that's gloves that have like a silver threading in them. So that way, if they're outside, they can touch the tree, right? And they can hold on to it that way. There's conductive shoes as well that you can stand on the snow and still be pulling electrons in. Or I have had clients who will take a big old tub of hot water. So they'll boil some water on the stove and dump it out their back patio to clear the grass. And they'll stand just on the grass in the middle of winter after having cleared it with the hot water.
That's commitment.
It's commitment.
I've never heard that before. That's amazing. So I'm learning something right now. So if I went right now, I have long sleeve and I have long pants on and I went and hugged a tree with my long clothes on, I'm blocking some capacity to receive the electrons with the clothes?
Through the clothes. Yeah, the clothes
really?
don't, unless it's a natural fiber. Like if you were telling me you had cotton or linen, but the majority of fibers these days are synthetic. and they don't. So like some of you will be some bare skin will most likely be contacting the tree, right? At some point. But I would say it would be better for you to maybe just touch the tree like this than to go like this and not have have barely any contact with bare skin.
Wow, I didn't know that. And so, what else did I want to ask about that? Okay. And then why not asphalt, but any other surface?
Because all the other surfaces, including concrete, is made up of natural stone. All natural materials will conduct, except also dead wood. So like if you have a deck or something that's dead wood, it's not going to conduct. And so that's just it. There's basically no water or no natural fibers in asphalt. So that's going to make it not conductive. It's an insulator, it's called.
Oh, interesting. Now, What about people in downtowns, like big cities, because where they might be able to find like a patch of grass or like some concrete sidewalks or something? Have you heard anything about the interference when there's like electric lines or different lines running underground? Or is it still like, hey, that's better than nothing? Or what's your
You
thought on
know,
that?
I am still of the opinion that it's better than nothing, because what's the alternative? Like there's massive amounts of what's called stray voltage everywhere these days, especially in big cities. Would I rather be connected and at least getting some of the electrons flowing into my body while also being exposed to maybe some of that stray power line voltage or non-native EMF? Or would I rather just be exposed to it without having the electrons? I'm of the opinion that I would rather have the electrons flowing. That being said, if it's oftentimes tough, but I always try to encourage my clients who are in a bigger city, at least once during the week. We all know that place, right? Where are we going to walk our dog to, or where do we know is that green space? Mm-hmm. Get to that green space. Just be in that green space, because I do want you to also get the negative ions that are there when you're truly in nature with the trees, if you will. And so that would be a beautiful practice to do on a regular basis. But listen, a lot of these big cities too, they've got you have small patches of green, like of grass. I will, if I'm in a big city, visiting family, friends, I'll pretend to be tying my shoe, just kind of on this green space for a little while. And I'll just kind of touch the grass. I'll kind of adjust this shoe and bend down, adjust that shoe. And because the electron flow is instantaneously, if you do that for a minute here or there, you're at least kind of recharging your body with that flow.
Yeah. And so essentially, if I go to the beach, I'm getting more benefit from walking barefoot along the shoreline for an extended time than if I were to go plop down on the sand. Well, I guess my feet would still be in the sand, but I was thinking, I always imagined that if I was like laying in the sand, I would be maximizing it because my whole body would be absorbing it. But you're saying if I have clothes on, it's going to block it to some degree.
To some degree, but like that's the cool thing about it, is that as long as some part of your body is touching it, you're going to get it. But I would say the ultimate earthing experience is being immersed in the water. So going into that water, right, just allowing all that water to just cover your body. That's where you're also then going to flow those electrons in as well.
Mm-hmm. And breathe in all the negative ions and the salts and
you're under natural light and all the things.
And so what if you might get bitten by a shark? No big deal. I'm just kidding.
I've got the Great Lakes, right? So I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's other things, but
there's always something.
Okay, so we have some really good ideas for ways that people can begin to incorporate sunshine at various times of the day, various grounding tactics. What else is, like, in your opinion, really important elements of the quantum biology, and what could we do to make other little 2% changes?
I think we laid the foundation right there, because I find the foundation to be light and touching the earth. The one thing I want to go into that I'd like to highlight with light is what I call UVA rise, because that was the biggest or most important time to get natural light for me. That was really the biggest game changer. And so going back to like this idea of light changing throughout the day, there comes a point where the sun's 10 degrees above the horizon. And don't worry, there's an app that has figured this out for you. So you can program in your location anywhere on the planet and it will tell you when this is for you. But there's from when the sun is 10 degrees above the horizon to 30 degrees above the horizon, this app called the circadian app calls that UVA rise. And it's when ultraviolet A light first comes into our environment after being gone all night long. That UVA light, when I allow it to strike my skin or enter naked eyes, that makes serotonin, dopamine, the melanin, like you talked about. There's a chemical in my brain that it helps to drive its production into other chemicals that will help to control appetite and inflammation and libido and fat burning capabilities and metabolism. And so if there's one time frame that I ask my clients to prioritize, it's UVA rise. And I really like that, especially it's easier for people who are kind of trying to support their health and and sunrise is too daunting, because UVA rise can happen, an hour or two after sunrise, depending on location. And so it's like, okay, that's actually a really key window of time to get out there. So that's one thing I really want to highlight. Another thing I want to highlight is that we can then now use other support strategies for what I call our mitochondria, to heal our mitochondria or make them better energy producers, including better producers of the water inside of us, because the water in our bodies, when we actually is another source of energy for us, and another source of what, if we can learn how to optimize that, it really promotes healing. So can I do a little bit of spiel on the water inside of us?
Yes, please.
Okay. So inside of our bodies, we have water, right? We've heard that the human body is 70% water. And what we need to know, though, is that by count, if I lined up all the molecules in my body, 99 out of every 100 would be water. And this water is not just there, right? It's not just an inert solvent, is what I was taught back in undergrad. It's just there. It really doesn't participate in much of the body. It's just there. That's so far from the truth. The water inside of my body actually organizes and arranges itself into a structure. And what I mean by that is the H's and the O's actually arrange themselves into hexagons. And that happens anytime the water is near biological surfaces in my body. And you're thinking, okay, Carrie, fun, that's an interesting fact, but like, what does that have to do with my health, right? Well, it turns out that when the water in our bodies organizes itself like that, it creates a battery of energy, because these hexagons of water have a negative charge. And right next to those hexagons is a line of positive charge. And if we look at any battery on the planet, you'll always see a positive end and a negative end, because we need that, what's called charge separation, in order for electrons to flow, electricity to flow. And so that my remote can work, or my little machine here can work. It's all about the charge separation. And we have that literally everywhere in our bodies. The water has structured itself and has separated its charges. And we now know that there's potential energy in that. So the lab work of Dr. Gerald Pollack has shown that actually is enough electricity to light a light bulb in any part of my body where I put a little electrode in the negative charge and in the positive charge. So the water in my body is no longer just there. It's actually a true energy source that I can use. And one of the best ways we can, what I call it, charge our water battery. One of the best ways we can do that is using infrared, which is a wavelength of light, also can be a wavelength of heat, we oftentimes feel as well. So yes, sunlight will always do it, because infrared is there all the time from sunrise till sunset. But that's where even things like a sauna can be beneficial. Sitting next to a campfire or a fireplace can be beneficial. Cuddling with a cat or a loved one, because that's a heat exchange, can be beneficial. Using a red light therapy panel, because one of the wavelengths of light is typically near infrared light. All of these things can be very supportive of what I call maximizing that water battery and that free energy inside of my body.
Awesome. So it doesn't have to be an infrared sauna, or it does?
It doesn't, because all infrared, anything we feel as heat, a traditional sauna versus an infrared sauna, it all contains infrared. And so it doesn't have to be. You just have to feel the heat. And some of it you don't even feel as heat, like the near infrared panel, right? The red light panel. But that infrared is just such a really cool way to support the body, in such a profound way that I find it to be very, very beneficial for almost all my clients.
Mm-hmm. And the infrared, we actually, you said for example, the blue light spectrum starts at nothing before sunrise and back to nothing after sunset, but there actually is a spectrum of infrared throughout the whole day to a varying degree, correct?
All the time. Infrared is really the dominant wavelength all the time. And it could be the middle of the winter, right? And be cold outside, and there's still infrared there. So infrared is always there. And so that's why it really makes sense, right? I was meant to be in contact with the earth and even in the middle of winter, maybe using a natural hide shoe, right? Which is conductive, under natural light. And then also having a campfire potentially around me so that I was always around infrared and soaking in Earth's electrons. And it was just natural for me to be syncing up to the light signals because that's all I would do, right? I'd be outside all the time. And so yeah, we were really designed to do it this way. And modern living has just given us massive conveniences. Like you and I wouldn't be able to chat like this if we didn't have the modern technologies that we have. But we have to recognize that nature gives us a lot of tools that we were designed to use. And so now I'm just hoping people can realize that these are tools you can put in your toolbox and start using, because we really we could really benefit from them in some pretty profound ways.
Right. And, you talk about things like a sauna or, an infrared panel, which can get quite costly, but we don't need to utilize those things. We have free access. I mean, and I mean, if you said that heat in general just helps our bodies convert this water to the right charge, then I can just go outside in Florida because I'm gonna get hot.
You get it. It's free. It's free and it's free and easy in Florida for sure. Like, we're in the middle of winter here, where it's not super easy, a hot bath. Like, think about that. And guess what? Bathtubs, at least in the United States, by building code, have to be grounded, which means that they also have to be connected to Earth's electrons. So like you could get this grounding experience in a bathtub of hot water, and you can really get a lot of benefits from that.
Oh, interesting. And what are your thoughts on some people say to put water outside, like let your water sit outside, or there's people using electric charging wands in their water, or like certain crystals that they put into the water. And what's the other thing? Like water machines that ionize their water. What are your thoughts on all that? Can that be supportive?
There's some of them. Yeah, they can be. So what a lot of those are aiming to do is either create what's called structured water in the water that we drink, or, kind of like an electrical charge in the body. So again, if my body is full of electrons, it would make sense that I would try to give my body electrons. And so this is a very complex topic, but suffice it to say that out of all of those, the one that I have found least beneficial for clients are the water ionizers. Because in order to ionize water, which means separate it, right? Separate the water into basically H's and O's, you have to electrocute the water. And that in and of itself destroys all the structure in the water. And so I have found that, and because water has memory, and I teach a whole master class on this, so I know this sounds woo right now, but because water has memory, I don't want to be drinking electrocuted water, right? Water, I've used this term before. It's like if I'm a traumatized body that's trying to heal, I don't want to add traumatized water into it. I want to add water that's the most vibrant water possible that comes from nature. So if spring water is great, or if we can filter our water and maybe put some beneficial like trace minerals into it, and then give the water structure back. I love the best way to give water structure is the free way. Yes, there's wands that can work. Yes, there's vortex devices that work. But if you actually just imbibe the water with positive thought, healing intention, you're going to you would see it under what's called crystallography techniques completely reshape itself back into beautiful geometries and structure, which is how water is found when it's drinking water in nature. So I love using water as a way of almost with that mindset exercise of like, I am safe. I am, I'm loved. My body can thrive. I'm grateful for this water. Just express some really nice things to the water and give it the structure, and then drink it. And you're drinking some really good quality water that way.
I love that. And what I love most about all this is that it comes back into trusting and believing that everything that we need to heal, as my podcast title is the power is within, meaning that everything that we need to heal is within us. But I really believe that within us means like within what is like natural, what is earth, what is made, like within us, yes, and our mindsets and our capacity to shift our emotional energy and our mindset, our state of mind, and having beautiful ways that we can utilize tools to shift things, but also trusting that our body, when we give it the right environment, will also just naturally heal. And that right environment comes from what is already free and already all around us. It is Mother Earth, it's like so much power in the ground, in the trees, in the sun, in the sky, in the clean air. And I don't know, I just think that it's nice to remember that we didn't we didn't need something that was made by man in order to thrive. Like it was already all there for us and within us.
Absolutely. 100%. It's so beautiful how you put that. An analogy that I like to give is like, I think we realize now that we're full of bacteria, this microbiome that's, it's important, right? We have a symbiotic relationship, it's called, with this microbiome, meaning we work together, right? We need each other. We need the information and energy sharing with each other. We then, as a physical human body, have a symbiotic relationship with natural earth, like you said, Mother Earth. And by putting ourselves back into that relationship, into that environment, again, we share energy and information at that scale that helps our body thrive and heal as well. So you're 100% right. It's all about like the environment and the relationship, and recognizing that even though we've been able to really divorce ourselves from that relationship, I'm living indoors with, in a very modern society. I have to make a conscious effort to go back into that relationship because of all of the healing energy and information it provides.
I love that so much. Thank you so much. I just love this chat, and I'm really excited to share this with everyone listening. It's definitely the first time that I've had anyone on the show to really just go into the topics of sunshine and earthing. Grounding has come up from various testimonials and people who utilize that technique, but to really just get to have somebody explain all this at such a deeper level has been really awesome.
Thanks, Chaz Smith. I'm so glad this worked out. I'm so grateful.
Yeah, I know. We had a lot of for everyone listening, we had a lot of tech issues for the first 35 minutes, but we've figured out a way to make this happen.
Perseverance.
Carrie, I want to ask you one more question. It's the final question I ask everybody. If you were told that you could only share one message with the world for the rest of your life, what do you think the most important underlying message would be to share?
Love. Love is so important when it comes to our bodies, and then also what we contribute to the world. And so I always, when I step outside at sunrise, or any time I step out at sunrise or in natural light, I feel this most profound, deep connection to love, like this deep love that I know is just a part of the field that connects all of us. There's love. And so if we can actually start to recognize how amazing we are and love ourselves, if that's too hard, if we can just really express that love to other people, not only do we help to heal and really support our own bodies healing, we support other people, we support the planet, we support just this beautiful, loving environment that we were designed to be in. And so while we didn't touch a ton on emotions, I think love is so foundational. And it also structures the water in our bodies. And that's very important as well.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for being here with me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this conversation. It's been a blast.
Indeed.